Hi and welcome to today's lesson on commas, colons, and semicolons. We're going to start with the comma rule with commas and fanboys. You are supposed to use a comma before a fanboys in order to join two sentences together. For example, he went to the store, period, he bought a nice jacket, period. Those are two sentences. Seems like they could go together pretty well. So we say he went to the store, comma, and he bought a nice jacket. Put the two sentences together using a comma and a fanboy. If you have just a list, then there is no comma before the and or the other fanboy that you're using. For example, he bought a jacket and a nice scarf. We're just listing nice jacket and a nice scarf and have a list. We don't have two sentences, so therefore you don't put a comma before the and. She enjoys reading romance books and writing love poems. Notice there's no comma because those are just two things she enjoys. What's a fanboys, you say? Fanboys are coordinating conjunction. It stands for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. Those are the only 7 words you can use with a comma in front of it to join two sentences together. Those you really need to memorize. So your hint, you should check and see if there are two complete sentences on both sides of the fanboys and the comma. If there are two sentences, then you have to put the comma in. If there aren't two sentences, then you might have a list and you do not need a comma. Here's some practice. Number your paper 1 through 4. Take a look and see if you would add commas or not add commas and which one of these follows the rule. Then you can check your answers on the next page. Pause now, do your practice, and then check your answer. Here are the answers. If you have any questions, make sure you ask and follow up. On to semicolon rules. Semicolons also join two sentences together or two independent clauses together. They do not use a fanboy, so do not use a semicolon in a fanboys. That is incorrect. For example, study hard for the test, semicolon, you might receive a good grade. Those are two sentences put together with a semicolon. A semicolon can also be used before introductory words in a sentence that follows, like however, therefore, in fact, etc. Okay, I like chocolate, semicolon, however, comma, I don't like dark chocolate. You cannot use words like fanboys in the place of however. It's got to be that transitional word that goes there. So again, your strategy hint, if you see a semicolon, you need to check on both sides of the semicolon to see if there's a sentence. If there's a sentence on both sides, then the semicolon is correct. If there aren't two sentences, you cannot use a semicolon. That is not possible, or it's not grammatically correct. So here's some practice. Again, number 1 through 4, see what you would put in where the semicolons go, and then check your answers on the next. Go ahead and pause and do the practice. And here are the answers. Colon rules. You are to use a colon after a complete sentence to introduce the list of items when the introductory words such as namely, for example, such as, that is, they don't appear. And again, the key word is that those colons, they replace things like, for example, or such as. So the sentence says, you will need to bring many items to class. Notice that's a sentence. We have a noun that ends it, there's a colon, and then we list the things that you should bring to class. If this said you will need to bring to class many items such as, you couldn't put a semicolon after it because it would mean such as, and we don't like to repeat things in English, so either just use a semicolon or just use the words. Do not use both. Here's some practice with colons. Do your practice, see if you would put a colon in or not, and then check your answers on the next page. And here are your answers. Appositives are going to be our next thing that we're going to talk about with commas. An appositive is a noun or noun phrase that renames another noun right beside it. The appositive can be short or long combination of words. For example, the teacher who has curly hair won the contest. Who has curly hair has been put in commas because it describes which teacher. We call that non-essential information. You could take out who has curly hair and you would still have the sentence, the teacher won the contest. And it would still make sense. Who has curly hair is just added information. We call that an appositive. It renames the teacher. The insect, a cockroach, is crawling across the kitchen table. Again, notice a cockroach is put in commas. You can take that out and it would still make sense. The insect is crawling across the kitchen table. The rule is that non-essential appositives are always separated from the rest of the sentence with commas. Notice the commas go around it. That signals that you can pull that out. Here's some practice. 4 questions, pause it, see if you would put in commas where those appositives fall, and make sure you get commas on both sides. Check your answers when you're done. Pause now. Here are your answers. Hopefully you got them all right. And finally, introductory clauses, phrases are set off from the sentence with commas. You use a comma when your introductory elements have an introductory clause. That means that the clause has a subject and a verb, but have a dependent clause marker like after. After we ate dinner, comma, we went to the store. You also use a comma on an introductory if it's an introductory prepositional phrase or more than one prepositional phrase. You can also use a comma for introductory when you have verbal phrases, some appositives or absolute phrases. And if you hear a distinct pause, commas also help introductions when they avoid confusion, when they clear up the meanings of sentences. Don't use a comma if you have a brief prepositional phrase. This says fewer than 5 words. I've also heard fewer than 3 words. Like, in the park, we went swimming. Or, in brief, comma, that's our transition word, though. That doesn't count. Here's some practice. Go ahead, pause the video, do these 5 sentences, see where you would put the commas for introductory phrases or clauses or prepositional phrases, and then check your answers. That should do it for today. Hopefully you learned some things about commas, colons, semicolons. Enjoy.